Welcome to Vick's True Crime Stories, where we dive deep into the darkest corners of human nature. Tonight, we unravel a chilling tale of love gone wrong, a story so twisted, it will leave you questioning who the real villain is. Imagine this: a wealthy mogul, at the peak of her success, finds herself drawn to a man who seems like the answer to her deepest desires. But what starts as a fairy tale romance soon spirals into a nightmare she could never have imagined. A hidden agenda, a web of lies, and ultimately, a brutal betrayal that shocks everyone who knew her. In this episode, we delve into the life of Judith F. Moody, a 60-year-old real estate mogul whose world was turned upside down when she met Larry N. Palmer, a charming man half her age. What seemed like the perfect match would become the most devastating chapter of her life. As their relationship unfolded, secrets began to surface. Secrets that would not only destroy Judith but also expose a much larger conspiracy involving corruption, greed, and power. But before we get there, let me ask you something. Do you think you can spot a con artist? Would you trust someone based on their charm alone? Or are some people just too good at hiding their true intentions? Stick with us as we peel back the layers of this harrowing case, one that left an entire city reeling and raised questions about the very nature of trust itself. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button now. This channel brings you gripping true crime stories like no other. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Because once you start uncovering the truth behind Judith and Larry's story, there's no turning back. Judith F. Moody was no ordinary woman. At 60 years old, she stood as a towering figure in Chicago's real estate industry. A self-made mogul whose name carried weight in boardrooms, at charity galas, and among the city's elite. Born into modest circumstances, Judith had clawed her way to success through sheer determination and an unyielding work ethic. She started her career as a junior broker, navigating the cutthroat world of property sales with a sharp mind and an even sharper tongue. Over the decades, she transformed herself into a powerhouse, building a multi-million-dollar empire that spanned commercial skyscrapers, luxury condos, and sprawling suburban developments. But beneath the gleaming facade of her professional achievements lay a life marked by loneliness. Judith's marriage had ended bitterly over 15 years ago, leaving her estranged from much of her social circle. Her only child, Olivia, lived on the other side of the country, pursuing her own dreams and rarely visiting. For Judith, the demands of her career had always come first, but now, in her later years, the sacrifices she'd made began to weigh heavily on her. Despite her wealth and status, she often found herself alone in her luxurious penthouse apartment, staring out at the glittering skyline of Chicago and wondering if there was more to life than business deals and bottom lines. Meanwhile, Larry N. Palmer led a life shrouded in mystery and reinvention. At 35, he was a master of disguise, seamlessly slipping between identities like water through fingers. To some, he was a struggling artist trying to make ends meet. To others, he was a philanthropist dedicated to helping underprivileged communities. In reality, Larry was neither. He was a con artist, a chameleon who thrived on deception and manipulation, using his charm and good looks to worm his way into the lives and wallets of unsuspecting victims. Larry's early years were steeped in hardship. Raised in foster care, he learned quickly how to survive in a world that offered little safety or stability. By his late teens, he had discovered his knack for persuasion, turning it into both a skill and a weapon. Over the years, he built a reputation as a smooth operator, leaving trails of broken trust and financial ruin in his wake. Yet, despite his predatory nature, Larry possessed a certain charisma that made people want to believe in him. It was this ability to inspire trust while harboring ulterior motives that set him apart from ordinary criminals. Their paths crossed one fateful evening at the annual Building Bridges Charity Gala, held in the grand ballroom of the iconic Chicago Grand Hotel. The room buzzed with energy as the city's elite mingled under crystal chandeliers, sipping champagne and admiring the breathtaking views of Lake Michigan through floor-to-ceiling windows. Judith, dressed in an elegant emerald green gown that complemented her silver-streaked hair, stood near the stage, accepting applause for her contributions to affordable housing initiatives. Her speech had been heartfelt, resonating deeply with those present, and as she stepped down from the podium, she was surrounded by admirers offering congratulations. It was then that Larry entered her orbit. Dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, he moved through the crowd with practiced ease, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries. His presence commanded attention without being overbearing, his smile disarming and genuine. As he approached Judith, he did so not as a suitor but as someone genuinely interested in her work, a donor eager to learn more about her vision for the future. The moment they locked eyes, something shifted. Larry extended his hand, his voice warm and measured. "Ms. Moody," he said, his tone dripping with admiration, "your speech tonight was truly inspiring. I've been following your work for years, and what you're doing to address housing inequality is nothing short of remarkable." Judith paused mid-conversation, taken aback by his sincerity. Most people who approached her after events like these were either seeking favors or simply going through the motions of polite conversation. But Larry seemed different, engaged, thoughtful, and undeniably charming. She shook his hand, feeling an unexpected spark of connection. "Thank you," she replied, smiling softly. "I appreciate your kind words." As they spoke, Larry effortlessly steered the conversation toward shared values, peppering his remarks with anecdotes about his supposed involvement in similar causes. He spoke passionately about his non-profit organization, which aimed to empower underserved communities, weaving a narrative that aligned perfectly with Judith's own ideals. Each word he uttered felt carefully chosen, yet natural, drawing Judith further into his web. For Judith, the encounter was refreshing. Here was someone who understood her passions, who seemed to see beyond her wealth and status to the person underneath. For Larry, it was the beginning of a calculated campaign, one designed to win her trust and secure access to her vast resources. Neither of them realized it at the time, but this chance meeting would alter the course of their lives forever. What neither of them realized at the time was the collision course their lives were about to take. As their relationship blossomed, Larry wove himself deeper into Judith's world, introducing her to his nonprofit and encouraging her to invest heavily in its mission. Moved by his apparent altruism, Judith saw in Larry not only a romantic partner but also a kindred spirit who shared her commitment to giving back. What she failed to see, however, were the cracks beginning to form beneath the surface, a web of deceit that would soon unravel everything she held dear. Did Larry truly care about Judith, or was he just another con artist looking for his next mark? Stick around until the end to find out, and don't forget to share this video with friends who love uncovering the truth behind these twisted tales. This is more than just a tale of love gone wrong. It's a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking beneath the surface of seemingly perfect relationships. Stay tuned as we uncover the layers of deceit and betrayal woven into this gripping true crime saga. Judith and Larry's relationship moved swiftly, as if propelled by an invisible force neither could resist. In the months following their meeting at the gala, they became inseparable. Together, they attended high-profile events, traveled to exotic destinations, and shared moments that seemed tailor-made for fairy tales. Judith introduced Larry to her inner circle, including Marie Johnson, her best friend and business partner, and Olivia, her daughter. To all who witnessed their interactions, Larry appeared to be the perfect match, a man who complemented Judith in every way. As the weeks turned into months, Judith and Larry grew closer, their bond deepening with each passing day. One evening, just weeks after their first encounter, they dined at Girl and the Goat, one of Chicago's most celebrated restaurants nestled along the vibrant West Loop. The industrial chic ambience buzzed with energy as Larry regaled Judith with tales of his travels, his charm captivating her completely. He recommended the signature goat meatballs, which Judith found unexpectedly delightful, laughing as Larry joked about his adventurous palate. Their connection flourished beyond the city limits. They spent weekends exploring Lake Michigan aboard Larry's rented yacht, cruising past the iconic skyline while sipping chilled champagne. On another occasion, they ventured to the Peninsula Chicago, a luxurious hotel perched on the magnificent Mile. From their suite on the 24th floor, they watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, its reflection shimmering across the water below. These moments were idyllic, seemingly untouched by the harsh realities of life. To Judith, Larry wasn't just a romantic partner. He was a kindred spirit who shared her passion for making a difference in the world. Encouraged by his enthusiasm, she began pouring significant resources into his so-called non-profit organization, which claimed to empower underprivileged communities. During a dinner at Alinea, Chicago's renowned 3-Michelin-starred restaurant, Larry painted vivid pictures of its impact, sharing stories of families lifted out of poverty and children given access to education. The avant-garde dishes, served on custom-designed plates and accompanied by intricate presentations, mirrored the surreal nature of their growing relationship. Each course seemed to reinforce Larry's vision, leaving Judith even more convinced of his sincerity. But not everyone shared Judith's enthusiasm for Larry. Among those skeptical was Marie Johnson, Judith's confidant and business partner. A fiercely loyal friend, Marie had been with Judith through thick and thin, supporting her during both triumphs and tragedies. From the moment Larry entered Judith's life, Marie felt uneasy about him. After attending a charity auction at the Art Institute of Chicago, Marie confronted Olivia in her office, located within Moody Enterprises headquarters in the historic Chicago Board of Trade building. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows, casting golden streaks across the polished oak desk as Marie voiced her concerns. She pointed out inconsistencies in Larry's background, noting that his references didn't check out and there was no official record of his supposed non-profit. Yet whenever she brought it up, Judith dismissed her warnings, blinded by her feelings for Larry. While Judith saw Larry as her soulmate, the truth was far darker. Behind closed doors, Larry was meticulously executing a plan years in the making. For Larry, Judith represented the ultimate prize, a wealthy, influential woman whose trust could be exploited for unimaginable gain. Using his charm and charisma, he convinced her to pour millions into his charitable organization, which served as little more than a front for siphoning off her fortune. Each donation brought him closer to his goal, each act of kindness from Judith fueling his growing greed. Larry's ambitions extended beyond mere financial gain. He craved power, the ability to manipulate and control, to leave his mark on the lives of others. Judith's wealth and connections offered him a platform unlike any other, granting him access to Chicago's elite circles and opening doors long closed to someone of his humble origins. The culmination of Larry's scheme came on the night of their honeymoon, a time meant for celebration and newfound intimacy. The couple stayed at the Ritz-Carlton Maldives Faroe Islands, a remote paradise surrounded by turquoise waters and pristine beaches. Their villa overlooked the ocean, offering breathtaking views of the endless horizon. As Judith slept peacefully beside him, unaware of the danger lurking nearby, Larry prepared to enact the final phase of his plan. The tension in the room was palpable, the air heavy with foreboding. In a series of carefully choreographed movements, Larry retrieved the sedatives he had concealed earlier in the evening. With precision born of experience, he slipped the drug into Judith's drink, watching as she consumed it without suspicion. Just as Larry was about to proceed, a sudden knock on the door shattered the silence. Room service, delivering a forgotten item, interrupted his plans. Startled, Larry quickly abandoned his original strategy, staging the scene instead to appear as though an intruder had attacked Judith. By the time authorities arrived, the evidence pointed to robbery gone wrong, leaving Larry free to vanish into the shadows. This is just the beginning of Larry's sinister plot. To keep up with every twist and turn, make sure you're subscribed to Vick's True Crime Stories. And if you enjoyed this part, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Because what happens next will shock you, and change everything you thought you knew about this case. Judith's death sent shockwaves through Chicago's elite circles in 2014, drawing attention from law enforcement and the media alike. Detectives Aisha Johnson and Mike Kowalski were called to the scene, a luxurious villa at the Ritz-Carlton Maldives Faroe Islands, where Judith had spent her final moments just weeks after their extravagant wedding. The initial report suggested robbery gone wrong, but as the investigation unfolded, subtle clues revealed a far more sinister narrative. Detective Aisha Johnson, known for her sharp instincts, immediately noticed inconsistencies in the crime scene. She examined the bruises on Judith's arms and neck, noting that their angles didn't match typical intruder patterns. This wasn't random violence, she concluded. It was calculated. Detective Mike Kowalski echoed her observations, pointing out that valuables had been left untouched, suggesting the attacker knew exactly what they were after and who they were targeting. As the investigation progressed, Marie Johnson emerged as a key figure. Devastated by Judith's death, Marie shared her long-held suspicions about Larry with the detectives. Her voice trembled with emotion as she recounted how Larry had seemed too perfect, almost rehearsed. Over the 2 years since their meeting in 2012, Marie had tried repeatedly to warn Judith, but her warnings fell on deaf ears. "He wasn't who he said he was," Marie insisted. Judith trusted him completely, and now look where it got her. The case quickly became a national sensation in 2014, turning Judith's private tragedy into a public spectacle. News outlets across the country aired live updates from WGN-TV studios and NBC Chicago, while social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter exploded with speculation. Hashtags such as #JusticeForJudith and #WhoIsLarry Palmer trended globally, sparking debates among armchair sleuths and conspiracy theorists alike. Some painted Larry as a master manipulator, while others defended him as a victim of circumstance caught in a web of corruption. Back in Chicago, investigators dug deeper into Larry's past, uncovering a trail of deception stretching back to 2010. Larry had been involved in an FBI undercover operation aimed at exposing corruption within Chicago's elite. His charm and ability to infiltrate high society made him an ideal candidate for the mission. Under the guise of a philanthropist, Larry gathered intelligence on corrupt politicians, business tycoons, and law enforcement officials tied to organized crime. However, things spiraled out of control when Larry met Judith at a charity gala in 2012. Initially, he saw her as a means to deepen his cover and gain access to even higher echelons of power. But as their relationship deepened over the next 2 years, Judith began asking questions. Questions that threatened to expose not only Larry's true identity but also the broader conspiracy he was embedded in. By early 2014, Judith had grown increasingly suspicious of Larry's activities, probing deeper into his background and raising red flags with those close to her. When Larry realized Judith was onto him, he panicked, devising a plan to eliminate her before she could reveal the truth. Investigators found evidence linking Larry's actions to a desperate attempt to protect himself and anyone else complicit in the conspiracy. Further investigation uncovered links between Larry and several high-ranking officials within the Chicago Police Department and local government. These connections raised troubling questions about the depth of corruption within the city's institutions in 2014. As the web of deceit unraveled, it became clear that Larry's actions were part of something much larger, a shadowy network of power and manipulation stretching far beyond one man's ambitions. As the world watched in 2014, Larry slipped further into the shadows. Was he a master manipulator or simply a pawn in a larger conspiracy? The answers lay buried in his past, a past that investigators were determined to uncover. Do you think Larry deserved justice, or was he merely a victim of circumstances? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, the more subscribers we have, the more incredible true crime stories we can bring to life. Through meticulous detective work, detectives Aisha Johnson and Mike Kowalski, alongside Marie Johnson, pieced together the full extent of the conspiracy surrounding Judith F. Moody's death. What began as an investigation into a seemingly random act of violence evolved into a sprawling exposé of corruption at the highest levels of Chicago's elite. Larry N. Palmer, once viewed as a charming philanthropist, emerged as a central figure in this web of deceit, a man whose actions left an indelible mark on everyone he touched. As evidence mounted, It became clear that Larry had been involved in an FBI undercover operation aimed at exposing systemic corruption within the city's political and business circles. His charm and ability to infiltrate high society made him an ideal candidate for the mission. Under the guise of a philanthropist, Larry gathered intelligence on corrupt politicians, business tycoons, and law enforcement officials tied to organized crime. However, somewhere along the line, his intentions shifted. The lines between his role as an operative and his personal ambitions blurred, leading him down a dangerous path. Detective Aisha Johnson summarized their findings during a press conference held at Chicago Police Department headquarters. Standing before a room filled with reporters, her voice steady but laced with emotion, she stated, "Larry may have started as a tool for exposing corruption, but somewhere along the line, he crossed the line. Judith paid the ultimate price for trusting him." Her death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a wake-up call about the dangers of unchecked power and manipulation. While Larry remained at large, evading capture despite extensive manhunts, his role in the scheme became undeniable. Investigators uncovered documents, emails, and financial records linking him to multiple scams spanning years. It was revealed that Larry had siphoned millions from Judith's fortune under the pretense of funding his so-called non-profit organization. In reality, the money lined the pockets of those complicit in the larger conspiracy, including several high-ranking officials within the Chicago Police Department and local government. Judith's tragic story serves as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and misplaced trust. Her death exposed deep-rooted issues within Chicago's institutions, issues that demanded accountability and reform. But it also highlighted the strength of those left behind, individuals who refused to let tragedy define them. Through their grief, Marie and Olivia discovered a renewed sense of purpose, channeling their emotions into positive action. The case sparked nationwide discussions about trust, power dynamics, and systemic corruption. Reporters and analysts dissected every aspect of the scandal, questioning how such a vast network of deceit went unnoticed for so long. Social media platforms buzzed with debates, with users sharing their thoughts under hashtags like #Judith'sLegacy and #PowerAndTrust. Some argued that Larry was a product of a broken system, driven to extremes by circumstances beyond his control. Others condemned him outright, labeling him a calculating predator who exploited those around him for personal gain. Ultimately, the truth lay somewhere in between, a complex interplay of individual choices and institutional failures. Judith's story served as a cautionary tale, urging people to question the motives of those in power and demand transparency in all aspects of life. As the story draws to a close, we are left with the haunting image of Judith and Larry's wedding photo, a moment that once symbolized love and promise, now tinged with tragedy. Behind the smiles and celebration lay a web of deceit, one that would unravel their lives and expose a scandal reaching far beyond their personal union. Judith F. Moody's life was one of success, passion, and ultimately, heartbreak. Her story serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers hidden behind polished facades and the fragility of trust when ambition runs unchecked. While justice remains elusive, her legacy lives on through those who vowed to honor her memory by fighting for change. The contrast between the joy captured in that photo and the grim reality of what followed leaves us questioning the true nature of trust, power, and human connection. Even in moments of triumph, shadows can lurk where they are least expected. Thank you for watching Vick's True Crime Stories. Until next time, keep seeking the truth. And remember, even in the darkest corners, there's always more to uncover. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we explore another harrowing tale of deception and betrayal.